Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of CasonPoint. I'm your host, as always, Jason Cason. Yeah, it's a new hat. It's awesome. I know. And it is Fantasy Football Foursquare Friday, and we are excited to bring you episode 39. We are going to cover some sports today. Go figure. We got some playoffs going on. We got some viruses spreading around. We got some moving pieces, so we want to dive right in and talk to it. Keep it a short episode. I feel like the last few episodes have been under an hour. We're going to keep it that way, get you guys your information quickly, and we're going to start with baseball. So baseball right now, they've actually concluded the ALDS, bringing us to our final four teams, 2 in the AL and 2 in the NL. I'm not going to lie, people. I am kind of impressed with the teams that are in here. The two that were almost guarantees were the Dodgers and the Braves on the NL side. If you remember back when we started talking about, baseball, we were talking about the Braves being the team that we pick, or by we, I mean me. I'm picking coming out of the NL, not just because I don't believe in the Dodgers. It's strictly because I believe in the young talent, and I believe that their pitching staff is fully rounded, and I believe in the young talent that they have, that they can stay healthy and that they can get hot when they need to. And that was proven in the last series when they swept the Marlins, even though the Marlins were a surprise team to be in there, and realistically the Braves should have swept them anyways. But nevertheless, it is still impressive when, even if you're a favorite to do that, you still do it. That's impressive. So the Braves, meaning the Dodgers were able to clean sweep the Padres, which I thought for sure was going to be a longer series. It was best of 5. I thought for sure it was going at least 5. Division rivals playing each other, you would think that the games would be really close. Most of the games were really close until one inning, when the Dodgers would put up like 5 runs in an inning, which is scary for a baseball team because both sides. So if you look at one side, being able to score that many runs on the flip of a dime is crazy, because you could be down 3 runs and then all of a sudden, bam, there's 5 runs and now we're up 2. And that's huge, and especially when they have pretty good depth in their bullpen to regain a 2-run lead and then hold it through the rest of the game is something the Dodgers can do. But you can also look at it on the other side. If you meet a team that has good pitching that can keep you from doing that, that really limits you. It's kind of like a basketball team that lives and dies by the 3. I believe the Dodgers are more rounded than that. I would say the Astros are more like that, a team that is strictly live and die by the 3. Because, the Astros, they're never out, because they will put 6 runs in an inning, and every game this postseason, they've basically done that. So, the Dodgers-Braves, it's going to be a clash of 2 completely different teams. You have young, high-paid talent that is surrounded by veteran talent in the Dodgers, and then you have a veteran, highly paid Freddie Freeman surrounded by a bunch of young talent. And it's going to be interesting to see who is going to take that crown. I believe whoever wins the NL is winning the World Series this year. I do not believe the teams on the AL side, which we'll cover here in a second, I do not believe that they are the stronger 2 teams of these 4. I think it is the Dodgers and the Braves. Whoever can come out of that is going to be the team that's probably going to win the World Series. On the other side of the AL, you have the Astros, who took down the A's, which was a divisional game. I thought it was going to be a lot more heated than it was, but I feel like the Astros batting definitely took over the A's pitching. And the Astros were able to take down the A's in 4 games, 3-1. And then the Rays and the Yankees. This one actually just concluded today. If you're watching today, Friday, or tomorrow, Saturday. The game just completed on Friday, and the Rays were able to take a narrow 2-1 victory in Game 5 to win the series 3-2. Very up and down. When the Rays were able to keep their limit the runs scored by the Yankees, they would win, because they would win 5-4, 2-1. But when they gave up runs to the Yankees, they couldn't keep up the scoring. And I think that's going to be a major problem when they run into a team like the Astros, because the Astros right now, they are hurt in the pitching staff component of their team. However, their bats are coming alive. And that is scary. Now, I know all you haters out there, me included. Look, I'm an Angels fan, okay? I'm in their division, okay? It sucks when someone in your division wins, but they win by cheating. We've covered this multiple episodes ago on the Astros cheating scandal. But the fact of the matter is, whether they cheat or not, this team is good. This team has stellar talent all the way around. Their second baseman, one of the best second basemen of this decade, Jose Altuve. Best stories of baseball in the last decade. Their shortstop, Carlos Correa, stud. Alex Bregman, stud. George Springer, stud. I mean, they have talent all the way around, and then their pitching staff is really good as well. They're just hurt. Greinke's out. Verlander's out. If they can put a couple arms together and claim a couple games, it'd be easier for me to jump on to the Astros taking this thing quickly. Because if they take a 2-0 lead on the Rays, their bats are going to keep the Rays out of this. But if the Rays are able to pitch their way into a couple games, then the Astros are going to find themselves behind, which, I mean, honestly, that's where they thrive. But I don't think that they have the pitching to overcome like they have in years past. This one's really tough. And this one I actually battled a lot because I definitely wanted to give my picks on where I see the Final Four. Obviously, when we talked about this whole bubble, my pick from the get-go was the Nationals, and then I kind of switched it to the Braves because as the season started, I could see that the Nationals were just too banged up and they had too many COVID things going on to really make a push, and I just saw the Braves just hanging tight, and then once their bats got hot, they just boom. So I switched to the Braves. When we did our initial pre-bubble, I picked the Nationals. When we did our just start of the bubble, I picked the Braves. So I definitely have to stick with the Braves. I think once I've seen what I think I've seen, I'm going to stick with them. But the AL side was so hit or miss. I picked the Yankees just because they have the talent. Like, they should be there, no problem. Like, it doesn't make any sense why they can't put it together. But there's a lot of teams in the AL that can just score runs. I mean, if you look at the teams that didn't make the playoffs, look at the teams that didn't even make it in. Look at the Angels. For 3 weeks, not even 3 weeks, for over a month and a half, they were number one in Major League Baseball with home runs. And they had like the third worst record. The AL can score. There's just no pitching in the AL. And that scares me because if the NL is pitcher heavy, again, live by the 3, die by the 3. If your bats go cold, those pitchers are going to take over. And which makes me believe, even though I've been talking them up a lot, I think the Rays can take out the Astros. I think with the talent level that they have, they're good enough to score runs and keep up with a struggling Astros team, and their pitchers can shut them down. I like the Rays. I like it going the distance. I think the Braves actually do work to the Dodgers quickly. I think the Braves take a quick 2-0 lead, and then I think the Dodgers try to claw their way back, but I just don't think that it's enough. I think that after this season, and it might not be after this season because I think with everything that went on, I don't think you're going to see a lot of managers lose their jobs, but I think Roberts is going to be definitely on the hot seat after this season for sure, especially with the talent that they have and the money that they put in their roster for sure. But I like the Braves and the Rays in my championship, and I think the Braves take it all. I'm sticking with the Braves. I think that they get it. I think if you look at who they are as a team and you look at their stats recently, look at the bats that have been struggling. Ozuna's been cold. Acuna has been cold. Swanson's been very up and down. I mean, Freddie Freeman's the only one that's been consistent. And when you see that, and then you see the last 2 games, the cold bats for the Braves got hot, and they whooped on the Marlins. Granted, Marlins, but the fact that the bats are getting hot, if the bats get hot right now, that's perfect timing. Plus, again, like I stated before, the best 2 teams in this top 4 are in the NL. If the Braves take down the Dodgers in the NL, they have a much lesser opponent in the World Series than they did in the NL Championship. You take out the NL pennant, you're taking down the World Series. I would be very surprised if either the Rays or the Astros win this, strictly because their teams aren't complete. Both have, the Astros pay veteran talent, big names, high money guys to kind of bring in those voids that they have, where the Rays just kind of bring in guys that just fill. And they kind of put like G-Man Choi playing first base. You got Perez playing catcher. I mean, guys like that, like just plucking guys that have been around, that know how to play the game and play smart baseball. That's how the Rays attack it. And I think when it comes down to it, I think if whoever takes the quickest jump right off the bat is going to take the series. If Dodgers take a 2-0 lead, Dodgers are winning it. Braves take a 2-0 lead, Braves are winning it. I don't think that either of these series are going to be 1-for-1. I don't see it going that way. I think whoever wins is going to win quickly, and then the other team's going to have to try to claw back. I think of any of the teams, the Astros are probably the team that could do it because they've done it before, and they proved to us that they've done it before, cheating or not cheating. But I like the Rays and the Braves. I'm sticking with the Braves. I think it's going to be awesome for Freddie Freeman. The man deserves it. I mean, the Atlanta Braves deserve it. The way that they've built their roster is just awesome. Just keeping everybody and not giving up on the talent, not being sellers when they needed to be sellers. Awesome. It really is. I really hope that the Braves are able to capitalize this. They're not only my favorite in this as far as talent-wise, but they're my favorite because I like watching them. They're the most fun to watch, in my opinion. Moving on to the other sport that is in the playoffs right now, we have the Lakers and the Heat in the finals. Lakers took a quick jump, but the Heat found themselves down 3-1 tonight. And man, Jimmy Butler is a killer. Jimmy Butler is an absolute killer. The Sixers screwed this up massively. They had this guy on their team and they weren't able to capitalize on it strictly because of pride. And that, I hope Embiid and Simmons are watching this series going, damn, this guy was on our roster and we had a shot. That team, that Sixers team last year was totally underrated, 100% underrated. And they were underrated because their coaching staff didn't give them the right opportunities. Management didn't believe in them. The fans were never given an opportunity to see them because the team wasn't allowing them to. They never opened up their roster. I mean, look at the stats for this Heat's Laker game. Jimmy Butler played 47 minutes. 47 minutes. He went 12 for 12 from the free throw line, 1 for 3 from 3, and 11 for 19 from field goals, scoring 35 points and dropping a triple-double with 12 rebounds and 11 assists. With Bam Adebayo as his second-best player. Pull Adebayo out, put Embiid in. You think they score more than 111 points? Probably. Pull undrafted Duncan Robinson out and put Ben Simmons in. Think they score more points? Probably. That team, they blew it, for sure. And Jimmy Butler's making them pay. And he's doing it to the Lakers, unfortunately. And what really sucks is the Lakers were wearing their Mamba jerseys tonight because they're undefeated in them and everything with Kobe, obviously, which is awesome. And Jimmy Butler said, sorry, man, I'm crashing this joint. And he just dropped a 35 triple-dub and said, I'm out. Let's go to Game 6. I think obviously the Lakers winning is inevitable. I think the Miami Heat kind of just put a Band-Aid on a fatal gash wound. But I mean, it's what Jimmy Butler's doing right now is absolutely impressive. Obviously, it's hard to overlook LeBron James, who dropped 40 points tonight. He almost had a triple double. He had like 13 rebounds and 7 assists. He almost dropped another triple double. And I know Anthony Davis played a lot. He dropped like 28 points. So it's hard to overlook those guys because they've been dominating the series. But you got to look at Jimmy Butler, at what he's doing, and especially as a Heat fan right now, knowing we did not deserve to be here. Realistically, I mean, out of all the teams in the East, the Heat probably were the third or fourth best team in the East, behind obviously the Bucks. But just the fact that they got here and the fact that they're actually keeping up with a Laker team that no one thought that if I could count how many Lakers in 4 comments I've read in the last, 3 weeks, if I had a dime for every time I saw one, I'd probably be a lot richer than what I am now. And Jimmy Butler's just saying, sorry, man, not on my watch. And people keep doubting him. And he just keeps saying, I'm just going to keep balling. And he is. It is so impressive to see someone like that. Like, watching this game reminded me a lot of when you watch old games. Now, fouling is completely different. A lot of these fouls were ticky-tack, and that's the NBA nowadays, and it's hard to critique it because literally you look at any team, they have a player that exploits it. But aside from that, the competitiveness, the energy level, this reminded me of like the 90s, early 2000s finals where players are like dying on the court because they're literally just giving them their all. Jimmy Butler with like 30 seconds left drove the lane and got fouled, and he like just goes to the barrier and just like leans on it, and you can just see him. He's like he is gassed, and he's still rolling, and he had the ball in his hands every single play when the clock was clicking down to zeros. Everything went through Jimmy Butler, and that's what you want to see, especially as a Heat fan, but not just a Heat fan, as a basketball fan. You want to see the best players have the ball in crunch time, and that is what he did, period. And look, I'll give LeBron props too. I hate to say that I'm a LeBron hater. LeBron is very good, a fantastic basketball player. I just feel like he's overhyped and he doesn't play to what he could be. And to see him in crunch time also take control of the ball and want to be the guy like that, we haven't seen really ever out of LeBron. Maybe like with the Cavaliers because he was literally the only player, but Dwayne Wade. Cavaliers when he went back, Kyrie Irving. Like, LeBron has never been the guy that's like, give me the ball, I'm driving the lane, I'm scoring here. Like, that's never been LeBron. And to see him do that tonight was awesome. Like, to see, it was literally 5v5, but it was Jimmy Butler versus LeBron James. Now, what I didn't like was how LeBron kept pushing Morris onto Butler. Guard Butler, man. Like, stop putting Morris on Butler. Get in his face, you're the best player in basketball, and stop him. Jimmy Butler knew he's not as good as you, but he's going to defend you, and he's going to try to stop you. Like, we need to see that out of LeBron. I think, obviously, LeBron's past his prime. In LeBron's prime, he might be the guy that does that, but that would be the only critique that I had at the end of the game was I wanted to see LeBron on Butler like I saw Butler on LeBron. But great game nonetheless. Heat win 111-98 or 108, sorry, 3-point game. I'm excited for Game 6. I think the Lakers win it, but I'm very stoked to see what Jimmy Butler, what tricks he has up his sleeves, because this series is actually turning out to be a really good series, whether the Lakers win it, quickly or not. The fact of the matter is Jimmy Butler has kept them in every single game. If you look back, they're an Anthony Davis three-pointer away from winning another game to where it's tied, or they're taking the lead in this game versus it being tied. And there's a couple other games that came down to crunch time. There's really only one game where they just blew them out of the water, and that was Game 1. So I'm very excited to see Game 6. Honestly, I hope this goes Game 7. I don't want the Lakers to win as a Rockets fan, and not just because I'm a Rockets fan. I don't like the Lakers, but I've always been one that doesn't like free agency team-ups. I liked when the Clippers did it, and I liked when like the Sixers did it, like when teams tried to do it to keep up with everyone. But I didn't like when the Warriors did it when like no one else was doing it, and the Warriors were just like, we're going to do it. I didn't like when the Heat did it when no one else was doing it. Like, my favorite championship to watch was when the Mavericks beat the Heat, because you had a team that was built based off skill and talent and coached around the talent that they had, and they took down a powerhouse of a big three. Like, that's what I want to see. And I would love to see that from the Heat, but honestly, the Lakers winning, story-wise, obviously great for sports. Now, enough of playoffs. We got football to talk about. And college football is about to be kicking off with, obviously SEC schools, Big Ten schools, Pac-12 is about to start, Mountain West. We might have a full slate of games here in a few weeks. Pretty exciting. But for right now, we are just closing up. Actually, we just started week 5 of the NFL season. We closed up the week 4 season. At the end of week 4, we still have some teams that have not lost. Now, we talked last week, we had 7 teams, right? We had the Packers, the Chiefs, the Bills, Titans, Steelers, Seahawks, and the Bears. Unfortunately, the Bears were taken down, and they're out. Now we're down to 6, so we're at the Packers, Chiefs, Bills, Titans, Steelers, Seahawks. Good group of teams. Rolling into week 5, they have some favorable matchups to continue to be undefeated. But on the other side, we have some teams that don't have a win yet. SpaghettiOs. We have the Giants, Falcons, Texans, Eagles, Jets, Vikings, Bengals, who are all without wins last week. Going into week 4, Eagles, Vikings, and Bengals were able to take a win. Good for Joe Burrow, leaving the Jets, Texans, Falcons, and Giants all without wins. Oof. Out of this group, honestly, I think the Falcons will be the first team to get a dub. I think that they've ran into a lot of hard teams to play against, and the Cowboys got away with they got away with overcoming a bonehead mistake by the Falcons in that onside kick. But competitive-wise, the Falcons are always being competitive. I mean, even with the Packers on Monday night, the Packers, ended up dominating, but there was a point up until the first 3 quarters where, the Falcons weren't going away. Then I would say the Texans. I think the Jets and the Giants are fighting for the first pick. And what's so funny is both of those teams have already drafted a quarterback very high in Sam Darnold and Daniel Jones. So are we going to have the first 2 picks not get Trevor Lawrence, or are we going to have the first pick trade out of number 1 to allow a team to get Trevor Lawrence and gain some draft capital? Ooh, who knows? We're going to have to pay attention. But I think Jets, Giants, they're it's going to be a while till they get a win. They look atrocious. But I think Falcons and Texans can definitely get wins, and I think they can get wins pretty quickly. Moving into the news side of the NFL, we still have COVID kind of floating around. Broncos-Patriots game, which was scheduled for Sunday, obviously, has actually been moved to Monday night with Cam Newton obviously testing positive. Well, after the game, Stephon Gilmore actually had tested positive, and him and Cam Newton went to dinner. Basically the day before Cam Newton found out he was positive. So that game has been moved out as a precaution to allow the team to prep with, closing facilities and moving players around and bringing players up and things like that. So that game will be moved to Monday, 10-12. Bills Titans, obviously the Titans were the first team that really got it. They still have it, and they still have players that are testing positive, which isn't a good sign. It could be the downfall for the Titans, but they're able to utilize their practice squad. There were rumors that they're actually having a practice outside of the facility after the facility's closed. Players got together and had a practice, so that's what's keeping this thing spreading. Not good. And because of that, the NFL's actually laid out new COVID guidelines and new rules. One of the rules I saw today was coaches will be fined and or penalized if they are talking to a ref with their mask down. You see it, they have their mask, and then all of a sudden the ref gets really close, and then they take it off and they talk to him and they put it back on. The whole point of the mask is to not do that. Have your mask off, and then when he comes up, then put it up and talk to him. But anyways, new guidelines coming out of the NFL because of all of this, and the Bills-Titans game has actually been moved to Tuesday. Now, this is where it gets tricky. Obviously, moving a game into Tuesday really hurts both teams because what happens about next week, they have less time to rest, especially the Bills. The Bills are supposed to play on Thursday against the Chiefs. Now, we just talked about these teams being undefeated, right? Well, Bills-Titans, 2 undefeated teams. Then the Bills have to go from playing an undefeated team right to playing Thursday against the Chiefs. tough bout probably would never happen in a million years. So the NFL has actually moved the Chiefs-Bills to Sunday 10:18, and honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if that game gets moved to Monday 10:19, but that has been moved out to allow the Bills to have some time from Tuesday 10:13 to play. So 10:13 Titans-Bills, and then the Bills-Chiefs game, which would be Week 6, technically the first game of Week 6, will then move to Sunday versus Thursday. I do believe that means we will not have a Thursday night game because we're getting a Tuesday night game, which sucks as a fan, but hey, Bills-Chiefs on Thursday would have been great. Super unfortunate for all the teams in the AFC West because now the Broncos, Chargers, and Raiders still have to play a game on Thursday, but the Chiefs don't. Interesting. Some controversy. Anyways, don't like the Chiefs. Those are the moves. Still got people testing. Now, there have been, the Jets had a massive scare where they thought a lot of people were going to tested positive. They went and retested and everyone came back negative. So good there. We haven't really had an outbreak. The Titans haven't been an outbreak. They started with like 3 or 4 and then, 2 every other day were popping up. So just the fact that they're still testing positive means that they're not really spreading away from each other. And that can be a concern. Now, if they continue to test positive leading into their game against the Bills, even though it's been moved to Tuesday, that's going to suck. That's not going to be good. Speaking of Week 5, let's dive into some key matchups this week. So, first one, that's a key matchup for me. Obviously, we're in the Shield. Raiders at Chiefs. The Chiefs should run away with it. But the Raiders are actually getting fairly healthy, which is good. They should be getting 3 of their starters back. Malik Collins, starting defensive tackle. Henry Ruggs, their first-round draft pick. And Trent Brown, who's been our tackle that takes up all of our salary cap that isn't playing because his calf hurts. But, nevertheless, can the Raiders keep up with the Chiefs? Now, this whole draft class for the Raiders was to get faster and free agency to get faster to keep up with the Chiefs. Can the Raiders do that? That's what we need to see. It's not, can the Raiders stop the Chiefs? That's not going to happen. But can they keep up with them? Do they have the speed to keep up? Can Henry Ruggs be the next Tyreek Hill? That is why the Raiders drafted him. So we'll see. And honestly, even if the Raiders only lose by 3, it shows that they can contend in the AFC West. If they get boat raced like they have the last 2 years, cause of concern for sure. But I don't think anyone sees the Raiders taking this. But if they can keep it close, I think that's going to be a real motivator for that team, especially when the last 2 games that they've lost, they have beaten themselves. This is not them getting outplayed by other teams. I mean, if you look at Derek Carr's passer rating and completion percentages and no interceptions so far this season, like he's playing really good football. It's the pieces around him are not connecting. And that's up to John Gruden and his staff to fix that. And I think this is going to be a crazy test, Week 5 going up against the Chiefs. Panthers-Falcons, we just talked about which team that has not gotten a win is going to get their first win. I think this is actually it. I think the Falcons are coming off a lot of heat, losing to the Packers, losing to the Bears, losing to the Cowboys. I think that they put kind of everything together, and I think that they have one of their best offensive games that they've had, and the Panthers' offense isn't that good, and I think even though the Falcons are banged up, I think they can slow them down. Obviously, Christian McCaffrey's still out. It's a good opportunity for the Falcons to really step up, and it's a favorable matchup for him, and I think this is going to keep Dan Quinn, his hot seat, a little cooler if he can win this one. But good matchup nonetheless. I mean, both bottom feeders of the NFC South, but good matchup for sure. Texans Jaguars, another bottom feeder, AFC South this time. Can the Texans get their first dub? This one is actually, I think, we talked about either Falcons, Texans. Whoever wins this week is going to be that team. I don't think both win. I think if the Falcons pull it off, I think the Jaguars pull it off. If the Texans pull it off, I think the Panthers pull it off. But who knows? But the thing with the Texans is they fired Billy O'Brien. Have done that. Now Romeo Crennel takes over as interim head coach. Can the team rally around Romeo Crennel. There have been rumors that J.J. Watt started a whole kerfuffle with Bill O'Brien on the field. Apparently him and the defensive coordinator got in Bill O'Brien's face, and that's what kind of started this whole thing. Does Romeo Crennel feel comfortable? Do the players like Romeo Crennel? I think we're going to find out. And they have a favorable matchup against the Jaguars. We'll see if they can pull it off. Moving away from the crappy teams, the Colts and the Browns. Let me rephrase that. Let me say that again, just in case you guys didn't hear that. Moving away from the crappy teams, we have the Colts and the Browns. That's right. Both teams are 3-1. Which team is for real? That's what we're going to find out in this game. Who is for real? Is Phillip Rivers for real, or is he Phillip Rivers? Is Baker Mayfield for real, or is he Baker Mayfield? Is OBJ going to cop an attitude, or is he going to be a stud? Is Jarvis Landry going to throw a further pass than Baker Mayfield? I don't know. Who knows? We're going to find out who's for real, though, in this game. And actually, this game is probably out of all the matchups, aside from the Bills-Titans game, which we'll cover here in a sec, aside from that game, I think Colts-Browns is the best matchup this weekend. I didn't think in a million years I'd say that, but I am. And then we just talked about the other game. Bills-Titans is my other key matchup. Who's going to remain undefeated? It's our only matchup this week of undefeated teams. The only question that I have was the break that the Titans had too long. Because obviously they had their facilities shut down, and then that week turns into a bye week, and then they had more time away from the field because obviously with COVID they weren't able to practice, and then they come back, they practice, more positive tests, more social distancing, and yada, yada, yada. Is it too much? Do the Bills overcome? Bills' offense is good and underrated for sure. And the Titans, they're a ground and pound team, and I think that favors them with the break that they've had. But I like the Bills in this one. I really do. I like the Bills moving forward. But so we've talked about the teams that haven't gotten wins, the key matchups and everything. We've kind of mentioned a couple, but the big talk around the NFL right now is coaching hot seats. And usually right around this time, that's when we'll start talking about these, who's on the hot seat, which coach could be on his way out here in a little bit, which coach isn't making the right decision. So I've kind of broke them down into 3 categories. We have 7 coaches right now. There's 32 teams in the NFL. We have 7 coaches that I believe are on the hot seat. Now there's some other coaches that I believe are on the hot seat, like Zach Taylor and Brian Flores, guys like that. But I think that being that they're new coaches and they just signed their contracts, I don't believe that the team's going to move away from them that quickly, especially with the Dolphins and the Bengals, who love to keep around coaches that aren't good. And I don't think we've seen enough from Zach and Brian to know if they're good or not good. But so I've separated it into 3 categories. On fire, which means that they could literally get fired tomorrow. Where there's smoke, there's fire. That's going to be the people that, it's smoking right now, and we're probably going to see them leave at the end of the year. And then getting warmer. So coaches that probably aren't on the hot seat, but if one more bad decision, we could be having this conversation. Starting with the getting warmer, I think Vic Fangio for the Broncos and Mike Zimmer are on that. There's a common theme with all these coaches, and it's their contract length, what they have left. So firing these coaches, they're going to still have to basically pay their salary until their terms are up. So, and that's why Zimmer, I think, is getting warmer. I think what he's done in Minnesota, losing Stefanski, getting rid of Stephon Diggs, and their offense completely tanking, I think that is a massive cause of concern. But the fact that he just signed an extension in the offseason, I don't believe that they're going to move past him, but I think that the pressure is definitely on. And then Vic Fangio, they gave him his head coaching opportunity, taking him from the Bears, and realistically he was hired because the Bears had one good defensive year. He still has 2 years left on his contract. He doesn't make the decisions you want from a head coach. The timeouts that we talked about earlier this season and just his game management, it's just not good. He doesn't have the talent. Elway's not providing the talent that he needs and the talent in the right areas. Losing Von Miller's, huge, but the fact of the matter is everyone's dealing with injuries right now, and their only win is against the terrible New York Jets, and it was barely a win. So those are my 2, keep watching, because I think that it'll progress through the season. Moving on to where there's smoke, I think Matt Patricia for the Lions, Doug Peterson for the Eagles, and Doug Marrone for the Jaguars are in this category. Patricia and Peterson both have 2 years left on their contract. Marrone has 1 year left on his contract. Honestly, if the Jaguars get boat raced in the next 2 games, I would see Marrone move up to the on fire category for sure. Especially with only 1 year left on their contract, it'd be easier to move past him than someone that has longer than that on their contracts. Doug Peterson and Matt Patricia, obviously Doug Peterson, he has a much better chance of sticking around if they have a bad season because he brought the Eagles a Super Bowl. But the fact of the matter is he's kind of in that Vic Fangio category where he's just not good at game management and he doesn't utilize the talent that he has on his roster, and he kind of just banks on Carson Wentz doing everything. And it's just not the case. And sometimes you see that a lot with head coaches that used to be quarterbacks. A lot of pressure is on the quarterback. They want the quarterback to do everything. And Carson Wentz just isn't durable enough to do that. That's why I think he's on the hot seat. The fact of the matter is they're 1-2-1, and they're in first place in their division. So, Doug Peterson would have to lose a few more games to really be on fire. But there's definitely smoke and there's definitely talks like, hey, maybe this guy isn't the right fit. And then Matt Patricia. Now, Matt Patricia, this guy's insane. Like, this dude, the comments he makes in press conferences, like, he's just so cool and he's just confident. But his team stinks, man. He's I don't know if it's that the players aren't buying into him or if his schemes aren't working or what it is, but the fact of the matter is he has pretty good talent and he can never really put everyone together. And what sucks is when he does, Stafford goes down and things like that happen to where, he can't really capitalize. But if the Lions have another losing season, I find it really hard to believe that they're going to stick around with Patricia when they fired Caldwell when Caldwell went 9-7. So Patricia, there's definitely smoke there. Moving on to the 2 coaches that are on fire. And I mean literally one mistake tomorrow and they're gone. And that would be Adam Gase with the Jets and Dan Quinn with the Falcons. Falcons are the worst, most talented team in this category. You think about it. Julio Jones, easily top 5 receiver, if not top 2. Probably top 2. Matt Ryan, top 5 passing quarterback. Yardage, completions, moving the ball down the field, top 5, easy. Running back, Todd Gurley, stud. Calvin Ridley, awesome number 2 option at receiver. Gage, awesome number 3 option at receiver. Then you go to the defensive side of the ball, and that's where they're really struggling. But the fact of the matter is they're the most talented, worst team, and Dan Quinn just can't get everyone to gel. And he just the offense can't move. They can't close out games. Think about it. Super Bowl 28-3, blow it. They're up 27 points against the Cowboys. Blow it. They had multiple games where they're up multiple scores just this year and they blew it. Dan Quinn has to realize that a lot of this falls on him. His talent is getting him there. His talent is keeping them in the game, keeping them in the lead, and he isn't managing it properly. That is a huge cause for concern. Being that he has 2 years left on his contract, I don't necessarily know if they're going to get rid of him right now, but I wouldn't be surprised if they get rid of him before the season's over, at all. And Adam Gase, I'm surprised he still has a job, to be totally honest. He has 2 years left on his contract, kind of, for the Jets. They next year, they'll actually just stop paying Todd Bowles, who they fired, still under contract. So the Jets do this a lot. But the fact of the matter is, he's getting Sam Darnold killed. This kid was supposed to be, the next Andrew Luck. He's getting destroyed. He's not utilizing Le'Veon Bell. Obviously, Le'Veon Bell's on the IR now, but even when Le'Veon Bell was healthy, he's not utilizing him because he didn't even want him on the team. That's been well documented. And his quarterback guru, just because Peyton Manning likes you doesn't mean you're a quarterback guru. The Jets made the wrong hire, and I think now they know that, and I wonder if pride is kind of keeping them from making this decision. But Eric Bieniemy's over there for the Chiefs as a coordinator, just straight up dominating people, and he's not even getting looked at as a head coach, and that's disturbing. Like, absolutely disturbing. All of these teams listed, the Falcons, the Eagles, the Jets, the Broncos, the Vikings, the Lions, the Jaguars, the Texans, like all of these teams, Bieniemy would make better easily, just from his offensive mind. It's like Andy Reid, and the fact that he doesn't have a job, none of these teams even looked at him. I mean, if you look at this list, there's 7 coaches on this list. 5 of those 7 coaches have 2 years left on their contract. That means they all got hired around the same time. Those 5 coaches got hired over Bieniemy. Insane. Absolutely insane. But that's going to close it out for my portion of this episode. Obviously, we have what we do every Friday, which is Fantasy Football Foursquare Friday, and we have the fam on the other side, so let's bring them on, and let's wrap this baby up, shall we? Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Fantasy Football Foursquare Friday. We're week 3 in this thing, and we have our very first back-to-back winner. This one was actually kind of a landslide, and unfortunately, this guy, even though he wanted to stay out of third place, decided to pick a kicker that ended up not playing. So I got my butt whooped.
Wah, wah.
Yeah, for real. So we're looking to change the tide a little bit. So we're going to dive right into these picks, get these things going. Mr. Panda, who do we got this week?
This week, for my quarterback, I have chosen Josh Allen. For my flex, I've picked Jerick McKinnon from the 49ers. I've picked the Dallas Cowboys defense and my boy Justin Tucker.
Good picks. Good picks. Miss Reigning Champion, Mrs. Point. Who do we have this week?
No surprise, I'm going back to Aaron Rodgers for my quarterback. I mean, I'm not Aaron Rodgers, Mahomes. Sorry. I'm so used to saying Rodgers. I'm so used to saying Rodgers. He's not playing. They have a bye. So, Mahomes.
Good knowledge.
Kamara. The Steelers defense because they're awesome. And Boswell for my kicker. I'm saying that
Okay.
right.
Good recovery. Good recovery. And Team Hay, who do we have this week?
All right, I got Wilson at quarterback, Kamara, Colts D, and Justin Tucker for kicker.
Nice, nice. It seems like this is a common theme. Mr. Panda was the only one that went away from this, but I'm going with Mr. Mahomes at QB as well. I'm going with Mr. DeAndre Hopkins, the Cardinals defense, and the Chiefs kicker Harrison Butker. I think I really picked him strictly for the fact that he has butt in his name, but also the fact that they're playing the Raiders and they're going to put up a lot of points. So, Mr. Panda, Josh Allen, why?
If I can remember correctly here, they have a favorable matchup, them being the Buffalo Bills.
Mm-hmm. And they have a late game on said Tuesday now.
Yes, they did get that game moved to Tuesday. But Josh Allen's really just like he is looking like an MVP this year. So I think he continues his reign of terror out there in Buffalo.
Buffalo. What about the Chiefs, or not the Chiefs, I apologize, the Cowboys defense? Are you a little worried that they're banged up and they haven't been playing well lately?
I am. Statistically, in fantasy, they are the second worst defense in all of fantasy. But they are also going against the second worst team versus defenses in the Giants, who are also banged up and not playing well. So I like to think that maybe, obviously, the offense is going to carry Dallas a little bit further than their defense, but I think the defense will come up with some good stops.
See, that's why I went with the Cardinals, because they're going against the worst offense. The Jets. Funny how both New York teams are the worst. Anyways, moving on. Team Hay. Seems like we're doing a reoccurring theme here with our picks. We're just trying to ride the wave to get back to the top.
No, I just like sticking with consistency. And Wilson puts up consistent points, and Kamara puts up consistent points. Tucker is a kicker that puts up consistent points. The only difference, if you would have noticed,
I
is
did
I've never
notice.
picked the Colts defense before.
Mm.
And why, you might ask?
I didn't,
Because
but go
we're
ahead.
playing the Browns. Well, we're not. They are.
Browns.
So, and the Colts already has a really good defense. Put them up against the Browns. I just have a feeling they're going to do well.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Mrs. Point, you still with us?
Yes.
So obviously your boy Aaron Rodgers on a bye, sadly. Going with Mr. Mahomes, is there a reason, or did you just pick best quarterback available?
Honestly, I love Mahomes. He's so good. So how can you not pick him? Mom
Fair
says he's cute, so there's that too.
Fair enough. Well, I am proud of you guys for not pointing out the fact that he's going up against the terrible Raiders defense. So I appreciate that. And hopefully, since I picked him too, he has a great day. But also, as a Raider fan, hopefully he does not. But that's going to do it for this week's episode of Fantasy Football Foursquare Friday. I appreciate you guys joining me. I appreciate everyone listening and watching. Make sure you go onto our social medias and you like our stuff and vote for us. Obviously, Mrs. Point on a heater. Team Hay also putting up some pretty good points. I guess it pays to literally just pull up the fantasy standings for players and pick.
Not
players.
true.
But for the creative minds like myself and Mr. Panda here, we like to venture out and give you exciting picks. So if you want to kind of live on the edge a little bit, feel free to vote for Team Panda or Mr. Cason Point. I can assure you, if you lose, you will lose with grace.
Team
Now-
Panda gets fourth place all the time. Just say.
Hey, listen, it's the Mashing Joyce connection, okay?
Ew.
If we're going down, we're going down together.
You ain't first, you're last.
Yeah, that's
Fair enough.
words I live by.
Fair enough. Live by, but do not apply.
Correct.
All right, guys. Well, as we end every single episode, may the sports be with you.
Ricky, I was high when I said that.